right, I'm here with my third passenger guest, and this is Keenan Skelly. Keenan is Vice President of Global Partnerships and Security Evangelist at Circadence. Welcome, Keenan.
Thanks. I'm super excited to be here. This is one of the coolest things I'm doing all week, so I'm really excited.
All right, awesome. All right, well, the first thing that I wanted to ask you about is Circadence, specializes in training of employees or government officials in terms of cyber awareness. So obviously, as times change, threats change, technologies change, your training has to change along with it. Tell me about some of the recent technology changes or evolutions that are changing the way that you create your training curriculum.
Absolutely. So now that AI is becoming more prolific, now that migration to the cloud is becoming more prolific, we're seeing a lot of organizations really needing to focus their security around those things. So what we've tried to do is create training courses that not only cover very specific tools for cybersecurity operators, but really focus on the application of those things in the cloud. How does artificial intelligence really impact the security of your platforms and the things that you're doing? So that's something kind of exciting and new that we're really focusing on.
Great, and something else that I wanted to ask you about. You have a role on the Active Defense Task Force, and I want to know your recent thoughts on. There were news reports that the U.S. Cyber Command proactively struck out at the Russia's Internet Research Agency, known often as the Troll Factory, that interfered with the 2016 elections, or the 2016 elections, and this time for the 2018 midterms, they did a little bit of a proactive strike to maybe send a message. So that gets into that hacking back versus proactive defense debate. What are your thoughts on those reports?
So right now, I think there's a lot of mixed reviews. A lot of people think that it didn't really send enough of a message. A lot of people are on the other side of that fence and really think that it did send a powerful message. The important thing about this is that deterrence of any kind, whether it's nuclear deterrence or chemical deterrence or cybersecurity deterrence, only works if the person you're trying, or the country or organization you're trying to deter, knows it's happening. So I think this was a critical step forward for U.S. policy to actually demonstrate that we will do something if you're doing something to us. So from a deterrence perspective, this is really a great first step into how we protect ourselves and how we let other people know that we are protecting our information.
Maybe we could also talk a little bit about some of the threats to critical infrastructure. So things like black energy and VPN filter are some of the recent threats that have been uncovered. And there's certainly been warnings about, again, Russian interference and other threat actors' interference into critical infrastructure. Talk to me a little bit about some of the recent developments in that area, and maybe what are your concerns?
So one of my biggest concerns in this area is that a lot of people still aren't taking it very seriously, even though it's happening quite more regularly than it used to happen. In the last couple of years, we've seen the uptick in ICS-related and energy-related cyber attacks go up quite a bit. So the fact that more organizations are not taking it seriously, that more press organizations, quite frankly, are not really putting it out there is a little bit disturbing to me. Now, I work a lot with several grid companies around the world, and a lot of them, for one, don't have the funding really necessary to go after these attacks, to really protect themselves the way that they should, which is also disturbing. Something else that is a real problem is that even if they have the funding, there aren't a whole lot of ways for them to train or learn how to protect themselves, and that's something that we're really focusing on as well.
Right, so ICS training is almost
ICS
its own.
data, it's its own beast. Even though basic security systems will be the same, these ICS devices really have their own types of security and their own types of protections.
There are a lot of reasons that companies will sometimes send their employees for training. They may open up a phishing email or misconfigure something and say, you got to go to training. Sometimes there are some really bad examples of no-nos that people do, and they get sent off to training. So what's maybe the craziest, poorest example of cyber hygiene or data management that you've personally encountered?
I happen to know a Fortune 500 company who has a CFO who has been phishing hacked so many times that they actually black box all of his emails, and somebody else reviews them before he even gets them. a Fortune 500 company. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
But maybe it has to do with that type of personality, the people who are very technically focused on finances, that maybe they just don't think about it. But that's pretty hectic.
Sounds pretty bad. All right, well, thanks very much, Keenan. I appreciate it. And we're already on to our final passenger, so let's bring them on.